Welcome to Conversations with Educators. I'm your host, Jerome Ellison, and today I have a special guest, teacher and certified school building leader, Raisa Turner. Thank you, Raisa, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Hello,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you. So I like to start with a quick game. It's called Start, Bench, and Cut, right? So I give you three topics. You have to start one, which is the best, bench one, which is the second best, and cut one, which you think is the third best in your opinion. All right. So, so I want you to think about your experience in school as a student, right? Which
Mhm.
one would you start, bench, or cut? Your elementary school experience, your middle school experience, or your high school experience, and why?
Okay, you said start is the best, right?
Yep, start is the best.
I would say my high school experience was the best. Um, it was where I fell in love with algebra.
Mm,
And the many classes that my high school offered was phenomenal. Nothing
nice.
like what I'm seeing now. It was phenomenal. It was a performing arts school, so I was in there for singing, choir. We had numerous of classes that I took, so I was so excited about that. You said bench is the second
Bench?
one?
Yep,
Okay,
bench.
I would say elementary. I was young. I was in the what we call the gifted and talented program.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of where I had like my first little fight. It was like
Mm.
my first fight that I was so nervous about, but I defended myself as much as I could, and
Mm-hmm.
I will never forget that day. But it was me being young and learning myself, and that was kind of where I was getting out of my comfort zone. And cut, I would say middle school would be
Yeah.
the one that my least, only because some of the teachers I had made me feel like math wasn't my strong suit. And
Mm.
I thought just was not getting it. But when I reflected, I realized that some of the teachers I had couldn't speak properly.
Mm.
And when I say couldn't speak properly, their accent was so heavy that it
Mm-hmm.
was hard for me to understand and
Yeah.
pay attention. It wasn't as engaging. And so during those periods, it was kind of like, why am I not getting this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a few. I guess I think I had like one other little fight in there too. That
Middle-
lunchroom fight,
Yep.
like
Yep.
So that would be my cut.
Yeah. Definitely. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
So I would ask you, I would start with why did you become a teacher? What got you into the field of education?
Okay, so I always felt like I wanted to be a teacher. I always have this memory of when I was 10
Mm.
and I have younger twin sisters. So we played school in the basement. They would line up on the stairs. They would have their notebooks. I would be the
Mm-hmm.
teacher. We had this chalkboard that my mom got for us, and I would be teaching them. They would be sitting down. Like we had our own little classroom
Mm-hmm.
set up. And at that moment, I was like, yeah, like this is just natural to me. I love doing
Mm.
it. So I always go back to that memory because I feel like that's when I knew, yeah, this is my passion. This is my purpose. So from that point on, I was always into teaching. I always taught things to many people, whether it's dance,
Mm.
whether it's tech. They were always asking me, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I was always the one kind of like saying the steps,
Mm.
explaining it to them. With choreographing, I was,
Mm-hmm.
putting the dance moves together and creating a production. So through those years, I just continued to be in the teaching realm. Wherever
Mm.
it was that I needed to teach, I was there teaching. And I kind of just followed my mom's footsteps because she was also a tech educator.
Nice.
So I already knew I wanted to go to school for teaching. It was already laid out. My mom made sure, she picked this college that had the best teacher program so I can
Mm-hmm.
graduate on time, everything. I didn't know what subject I wanted to teach, but I did know I wanted to teach high school because I
Mm.
loved my high school experience and I just wanted to make the teenagers feel that same feeling I had. So I knew I wanted to teach high school, just didn't know what until I got to high school and I was like, yep, algebra it is.
That's so I love that. I love that story.
Yeah,
The fact
that's how
that
I found it.
you were in middle school and you had a teacher or you had an experience where you didn't feel confident in
at
math,
all.
or you started to lose that, that passion for math, that love for math,
Mhm.
and that belief that you
Yep.
can do math, and then now look at you teaching math. So that's a
Teaching
great,
math.
full circle story. Love it.
Yep. Yep.
That's great. My next question, because teaching is such a difficult field, especially nowadays. What has been your biggest challenge as an educator so far?
Um, my biggest challenge as an educator, I mean, should we say pre-COVID
Pre-COVID,
or
pre-COVID, because there's no challenge like what we're going through right now. So I would say pre-COVID.
pre-COVID? My biggest challenge, I would say, is probably getting my parents on board, really impacting the parents, because I feel like I do so much in the classroom, in school for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them so many affirmations. I show them so many examples of how to be a boss and still be fly doing it.
I love that.
But when they get home, it's like whatever home is like, if it's not too good, it's like that's the brick wall that I keep fighting. It's like I can fill you up so much in the classroom, but then when you go home, you go right back to the same, cycle that's not really good. So it was always trying to impact the parents as much so that we can break some of those cycles so that the students can truly, and fully learn. So that was one of my most challenging parts of teaching. It was so hard to even get them to like report card night.
Mm-hmm.
Like I at least should be seeing you come to the school. As
Yeah.
a parent, I don't have kids yet, but as a parent, I would want to see who is teaching my child.
Yeah.
I need to know, so that, we can build that partnership and I know who to call on. And it was just a drag to get some parents in. So that has always been one of my biggest struggle, which is why I actually sought out leadership
Love it.
so
I
that I
love
can
it.
better impact the parents and better equip them as well, as much as I'm doing it for my students.
I love
Now,
that.
during COVID,
Yeah.
you already know.
You already know. There's a laundry list. We can do 3 hours
It's a
just talking
laundry
about the
list.
COVID challenges.
I mean, we're surviving, but COVID teaching during this pandemic alone is just the challenge.
Yeah. I
So
love I love what you said. You said a few things about just that relationship between parents and the school or with the teacher is so
yeah,
important, because it's like a partnership, like you said. And if we have to support parents and give them the tools and strategies and information that they need in order to understand the importance of being involved in their child's education, and then building that bridge so that we have good open lines of communication with parents.
exactly.
Especially, I know you teach math, so especially with math, because so many parents had such negative experiences with
Oh
math, and they
yes.
give that message on to their children, and their
Yep.
children don't feel confident with
Yep.
math because of that. So as a math teacher, it's so important to have that connection with parents, and bring them in and find ways that they can support their child with their math learning. Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
definitely. What has been your proudest moment? What's something that always puts a smile on your face every time you think about it?
Um, I will never forget. Actually, I probably have two proudest moments. When I first interviewed to be a high school teacher. So I always knew I wanted to be a high school teacher, but I ended up getting a job with this charter school starting off first, and I taught kindergarten first and second grade. And I always said, I will teach a lower grade than high school, but I'm not doing kindergarten. I'm not doing it. And lo and behold, I taught kindergarten. And it was within my second month of being an associate teacher is what my title was. And I had to replace a 5-year teacher in a kindergarten class who could not handle the class. And it was just mind-boggling. Kindergartners, you can't handle kindergartners? There's no way I'm letting these little kindergartners try to come over me now. So, the principal at the time told me and another associate teacher that we were going to take over the classroom. And we took over the classroom, and my natural teaching skills just came out, and we just turned that class all the way around. And it was just so rewarding to see how other people might have viewed them as crazy disruptive, toxic, like these kids are just, I don't know what's wrong with them. Why aren't they listening? And change the view to see how amazing they can be with just a proper structure, love and care.
That's it.
So it was so beautiful to see. I know the parents hated when I left, but I was like, I got to go to high school. I'm sorry. So my second one is when I got to high school and I did my demo lesson. And the principal saw me and, I felt like it was great. I did wonderful. It was a math lesson. And we went back and debriefed. And she was like, I was so amazed to see how you were able to get this particular student to and actually rest in peace. He's no longer here. It was such a tragedy. But she said, this student is someone who falls asleep. He's never listening. He's just bored, not engaged. And you got him to do the work. You got him to be up and engaged and do the work. And she hired me right on the spot just from that. I didn't even know that I made such a huge impact in that moment. I was just treating all the students equally, not knowing any of their background or anything about them. And I just did what I had to do. And I was able to engage this student who just normally is not engaged. And that was just, I was like, wow. So it was good to hear.
That's great. I mean, something that really stood out, the first thing about how you were able to, the teacher that left after 5 years and how you were able to replace them and make a difference, you and your co-teacher. And what stood out is what you said. You said structure, love, and care. And I feel like those are so valuable as a teacher. Kids want structure. As much as they may think they don't want it, they want structure. They want something that's consistent, especially nowadays. They want consistency in the school building. And then love and care. When you love and care for kids, they'll do anything. When they know that you love and care for them, they'll do anything for you. They'll jump over a wall, I say, for you. So once you can do that, you can get them to be engaged in anything that you teach because they know that you genuinely care about them outside of what you're teaching, outside of that school building. And then the other thing that you said was, in the other situation in high school, you were able to get a kid engaged that wasn't engaged. And a lot of times what I noticed is, and it goes back to what you said before, is you just taught it without any preconceived notions about this class or about the kid, right? And so often kids like the one that you referred to, they get this stigma throughout the years in the school where people are like, oh, they don't care, their parent doesn't care, they don't want to learn, they're just here, they sleep all day, they come late. And teachers spread that message to other teachers, then we end up lowering the expectations or giving up on kids. But for you to come in without any of that and just do your thing and care and love and teach, and that kid was like, whoa, this teacher actually believes in me and cares in me, it probably woke him or her up because they never experienced that, or they stopped experiencing that as they started to be labeled as a bad kid or a poor performing kid. So caring, loving, and having high expectations for kids is so important.
High standards. We cannot place low standards on kids. The minute they see that, they're gonna use that and say, oh, well, if they got away with it, why can't I do it? And too many times I have seen that, and it's like, this should not be the norm. The norm should be here, so that when you go out of the norm, you should feel it. I shouldn't even have to tell you that I'm disappointed. And that's something students never like to hear. You can give them a consequence, put them in a corner, whatever, and they're like, oh, this is nothing. It's not going to affect me. But the minute you say, I'm disappointed, like you really let me down, they're like, oh my God, no, I can't believe I let somebody, like, it's just a little bit more internal because you can see that the love was there. And I tell my kids all the time, I love y'all. I don't know y'all like that. I just met y'all. We are in the Zoom right now because I teach ninth graders, but I love y'all. I love kids, so I love y'all and I love what I do, period. So I always, say that from the beginning so that they know, especially with math. It's very traumatic with math. Yes. Especially for our Black and brown kids. Math is like, whew. But I tell them, if you love money, you gotta love math. If you love money, you better respect it at least because it's all around us. And just getting them into that mindset is just shifting them to really see math for what it is and take out that I can't do this, I can't do that. We don't say that in my classroom. You can do anything. The minute you start to say, oh, I can't do it, you already can't do it,
Yeah.
So that's the conversations that I have with my kids almost every single day.
That's so real because it connects it to something that they're passionate about, right? You love money, then math is connected to money. So it's like you have that entry point, right? That's how kids can make sense of this is how I need this. This is how this applies to my life either now or in the future. And then they'll be more engaged and more interested to learn. I think we can do that for math, we can do that for English, we can do that for social studies, we
Anything.
can do it for any subject, but we have
Right.
to really understand our kids and know them and see what's going to get them to be engaged based on where they're at and what their interests are. And it's so important to think about that as a teacher because we lose so many kids because at some point, especially with math, they feel like, well, this I don't need to use this in life, or this doesn't connect to me, or I don't really
That
see a use
famous
of this,
line.
and then you lose
Famous
them.
line.
So you
Right.
have to find a way to bring what they're doing or where they're at in their life or what they want to be in the future and connect that to what you're teaching current times.
Absolutely. And that's what being culturally responsive
Yep.
is. And a lot of people to this day, a lot of teachers to this day still don't know what that means. That's exactly what being culturally responsive is. It's not just, oh, well, I'm gonna put one of my students' name in a problem and they're gonna do it. Or I'm just gonna teach the way I know how to teach. No, you have to incorporate everything around them. So you have to know them. You have to know what they like, what they're listening to, what they're playing,
Mm-hmm.
their culture, and you have to put that in the lesson. You have to connect it. That's what it is.
Yeah. And it
So,
starts with getting to know them and making them feel comfortable so they can express what their interests are, what their hobbies are, what they like doing, what they like learning about. And then
right.
that's when you pull that data, this real data, and you bring that into your instruction, to your curriculum. So your curriculum has to be flexible year to year, student to student, because every group of kids is not the same. You know?
All different.
Yep,
Yep.
definitely. My next question I would love to get your thoughts on is if you had a chance, based on your experience in the school system, right? What's one thing that you would either take out or you think should be improved in order to make the school system, education system more effective?
Um, I think that there should be more student voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually wanted to do a poll on this on social media
Mm-hmm.
and find out like what do you guys want to see in schools, right? Because the way I imagine school, it should look and feel like the inside of Google
Mm.
headquarters,
I love that.
the inside of Twitter and Facebook headquarters. It shouldn't look and feel like a prison.
Mm.
And when you look at certain neighborhoods that have great schools because it's great neighborhoods, look at how their buildings look compared to schools who are not in great neighborhoods, urban neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
impoverished neighborhoods. Their buildings are not like them.
Mm.
So, the mindset already is not okay. It's negative. So I would love to see many schools just turn around in terms of aesthetic,
Mm.
how it looks and how it should feel. It shouldn't feel like Jewel started. I shouldn't be at the door saying, why do you have that? Take that off, And I've
Mm.
seen this happen so many times. It's like, why do we talk to kids like
Uh-huh.
that? Why? They're already experiencing some things even on the way to school, especially if you're in urban neighborhoods.
So true.
And it's like we cannot speak to them. I don't even think sometimes people are mindful of how
Nope.
they're speaking to them. So
Nope.
it should be tons of classrooms with music studios, art galleries. Like I'm in this leadership group where this principal in New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
he transformed his whole high school to like a mall.
Mm.
And these kids are running the businesses. There's a print shop, there's a Capital One bank in
Wow.
the school. And I'm like, this is really happening. Kids
Mm.
are doing more of the work. They are the ones actually sitting in the classrooms, in the schools, and taking action
Mm.
rather than teachers and staff doing all the work. So I would love to see a school full of kids' actions,
I love it.
student
I,
action.
I love it. And the thing that you said about student voice, I feel like is so important. I feel like student voice, parent voice, alumni voice, people who've, moved on and just getting information to know exactly what would you want differently in the school, what didn't work for
Right.
you, how can we adjust it? Because now, post-pandemic, we have this opportunity whether we can
Yes.
change a lot of things now moving forward, or we can stay the same and stay the status quo and get the same outcome, right? So if we
Right.
really want to improve it, now is the time. We can really change the schedules up,
Oh
change
yeah.
our focus on social emotional learning, change our focus on building relationships, change our focus on teaching more life skills in the building, and
Yes.
really get rid of some of the some of those structures and content also in the system that kind of built the pipeline, the prison system, right? One thing you said is creating an environment that seems like a Google office, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
so needed. These schools, so many old schools were built during a time, and they were intentionally built to look like prisons to prepare our kids
Exactly.
to go to prison, right? And
Mm-hmm.
now during the pandemic, we have kids in the building wearing masks and being so quiet, and it's scary because if it stays this way, this is like even more like a prison than ever
Yep.
before.
Yep.
So we can't let this sit here. Once we get the opportunity to make this change post pandemic, we have to use this to really change things up. As far as
Absolutely.
infrastructure, as far as what we teach, as far as how we look at kids and what we think
Yes.
about what's more important. Is it standardized testing and academics, or is it also more emphasis on social emotional learning and growth and life
Mm-hmm.
skills? So
Mm-hmm.
this is such a big opportunity in education, and we can't
Yeah.
drop the ball here because we're going to then have another 50, 60 years of the status quo.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know? Next question. If you had, as a leader now, right, put your leadership hat on, if you had a chance to give advice to a new teacher entering the field, someone you're hiring, right, and you want to
Mm-hmm.
give them advice to be successful in their first year, what would that one piece of advice be to them?
My one piece of advice would be to make sure you plan ahead of time. Make sure you have your vision of how you want your classroom to be and how the expectations you want from your students. Make it clear and say it from day one
Yeah.
with love, but firmly. Say
Mm-hmm.
it from day one, and you continue to go back to that. Go back to that. And matter of fact, have them make goals. Have them make a goal contract. You
Mm-hmm.
sign. This is what we're gonna do. Doesn't matter if they're in kindergarten or high school. All
Yep.
kids can do that. So once you do that, once you set the expectations, once you show that you care for them, then you can basically deliver anything to them. But it's always you're always going to be tweaking something. Every day you're going to be tweaking and trying new
Every
things.
day.
You might have had this plan, but guess what? For the next class period, you're probably changing something because you
Mm-hmm.
realize something didn't go right in the first one.
So
And
true.
when you do that, it's okay. Don't fret. Just know that you're making sure that whatever you need to get is fully getting out to the kids.
Mm.
And please, 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 self-care is key. Stop work at whatever time you're supposed to be off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Use your weekends, at least the Friday, Saturday, to recuperate. Sunday, go back to your whole planning mode. But
Mm-hmm.
please, please practice self-care because you can get burnt out so quick. And we've all experienced this pandemic and we're
Mm.
still experiencing it. And
Mm.
we see that every day is not promised.
No.
So please
Ooh.
don't forget about the self-care.
That's
That's my
so
advice.
that's such a great, that's a gem. That's so important. I love
Yeah.
it. Last segment. This one is called Choose Your Teachers Wisely. So
Okay.
as we know, education happens, in schools and also outside of schools as well. So this is your chance to give a shout out to, it can be a person, one book, or thing, just pick one of them, that
Mm-hmm.
has educated you to become a better person in life. Who would you give a shout out to, or what would you give a shout out to?
Oh, this is a tough one. You know what? I have my book right here. So
Perfect.
how about I
Yep,
shout
perfect.
out the author of this book, which is called Revolutionary School Culture. And this
Mm,
is a principal in California, Watts, California, who built his school from the ground up.
ooh,
And he just published this book. And it basically is I already started reading it. It's everything that I thought being an educator should be. We are not the norm. We should be revolutionary educators because it's definitely time for a revolution. So his name is Principal Amen Ra,
Nice.
California, and this is his book, and I'm reading it. And I mean, it's just so far, it's just very transformative. And this is exactly what I aspire to be, a revolutionary educator. So shout him out.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to shout you out, Raisa. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate the conversation. You shared so much of your experience and so much that people can learn from. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say one little caveat. I have a tutoring business, as you can see here. This is my logo.
What's it called?
Tutors. Black Girl Tutors.
Nice. Where can they find you at?
You can find us at blackgirltutors.com or on Instagram at blackgirltutors_LLC. We are tutoring nationwide since we are virtual. And so all you have to do is fill out a quick inquiry form and we will get back to you and set you up with one of our tutors that we have.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much, Jerome, for this. This is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. Stay blessed and remember, education over everything.
Yes. Bye.